Greetings, salutations, and welcome to SportsLook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and tonight we're going to have two gentlemen on that you're going to see in the next couple of weeks at Steve Loy Family Foundation Stadium. First of all, we're going to get Austin Bortle. He is the new defensive coordinator for Greyhound football. Then we're going to get Josh Harden. He's the head coach of Greyhound track and field. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Greyhound track and field was supposed to compete last weekend in a meet at West Texas. It got canceled, so they have rescheduled. They're going to run in Albuquerque this weekend, get ready for the conference championships. For the Greyhound softball team, 2 up and 2 down. They lost a doubleheader to West Texas, but they swept Midwestern State. And 2 up and 2 down for the Greyhound baseball team. They beat Lubbock Christian 2 games this past weekend, lost 2 to LCU. And Greyhound Rodeo, Shacey Marr, the overall champ at the Howard College Rodeo. That's the 3rd overall championship she's won. She sits 2nd in the region right now. Well, that has been your Eastern recap. So what we'll do is we'll clear the set and we'll bring in Austin Bortle right now. Welcome back to SportsLook, and we bring to the set of SportsLook the new defensive coordinator at Eastern New Mexico University, Austin Bortle. And Coach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, the first question, where are you from originally, and what was the process that got you to the defensive coordinator position?
Yeah, I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri, so a little bit from home here. Kind of got here through coaching connections. Met Coach Lee up at the All-Alaska camp a couple of years ago, and then one of my good coaching buddies and one of the guys I played with and have known for a long time has been going to that camp for a long time. So he knew him, so they kind of connected us. I'd been coaching, started a sprint football program up in St. Louis back home for me, and that university unfortunately closed, so was kind of looking for an opportunity and just felt like the right spot to be.
So talk a little bit about your association with the game of football growing up. What position did you play?
So in high school, I played running back and then played some defensive safety, some corner, kind of moved wherever they needed me. Then I went to Lindenwood University there in St. Louis. Didn't go too far from home, could almost walk to my house, but had a great career there. Played receiver there for 2 years. When we moved to the spread my senior year, played fullback my first 2 years because, you know, I formation still existed back in the day. And then went to Lindenwood as a graduate assistant, just kind of got promoted, coached receivers for a while, then got moved to defense. So I've done a little bit of everything throughout the years of coaching.
So was football your only sport growing up, or did you play a number of sports and football just became your passion?
Football just became my passion. I played a number of sports. I ran track in high school, played basketball in high school, and then just football kind of took me the farthest of them all, and then it just kind of turned into a career after that.
So in terms of track and field, what events did you do?
I ran the hurdles and I was a jumper. So I did the 300 hurdles, the 110s, and then I was a triple jumper, long jumper, and high jumper.
Okay. And in terms of growing up with football, did you have a favorite college team? Did you have a favorite pro team?
Not really. I was born in Texas, so I was kind of a Texas Longhorn fan. And then professionally, I was a Cowboy fan. I moved to St. Louis. That wasn't the most popular thing in St. Louis, and the Rams weren't there yet when I first got there. So I wound up being an Eagles fan just because I liked Donovan McNabb in college, his style of play. So I'm an Eagles fan now from St. Louis, Missouri, which is kind of random, but that's just how things sorted out.
Let's talk about you in relation to coaching. At what point in your life did you realize that coaching was an intriguing possibility?
I would say college. In high school, you know, I had other aspirations, but then once I got into that college environment and had that relationship with my coaches, that kind of clicked in my brain. We're like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to impact young men, both from football but off the field as well, and just kind of found that passion in the college. What
did you major in?
I majored in, a funny story. I wound up with a business major, but that was because I would have had to take an extra semester to student teach, and I could graduate a semester early and get right into my graduate assistantship as a football coach. So I wound up with a business administration degree.
Talk about your adjustment to coaching. What was the biggest surprise when you went from one side of the playing field to the other side?
Yeah, you always think you kind of have an understanding of the other side, and then you get over there and you start learning all the minute details that go into it. So I think it was very beneficial for me because, like I said, you just don't know some of the fine-tuned details. So I think it made me a more well-rounded coach. I think now it helps me be a defensive coordinator because I kind of can see things through that offensive lens and see what they're trying to, attack on us. So I think it's very beneficial, but it was definitely weird at first. I went from wide receivers to D-line, so not the most same type of players in that position group, but you'd be surprised with getting off press and stuff how the hands kind of translate over to defensive line, and really fell in love with the defensive side of the ball after making that change.
So, was there one coach in particular that really has helped to shape you into the terms of the coach that you are, or has it been kind of you borrowed from a number of individuals?
I think I've borrowed from a number of individuals. Obviously, from a defensive standpoint, Coach Dion Melvin was the defensive coordinator at Lindenwood when I was there. He kind of taught me what I knew about defense at the time. And then throughout the years, have just kind of learned from different people and found kind of what my philosophy is from a defensive standpoint. So it's kind of a mixed bag of a bunch of different people, but I think it's good experience to work in a bunch of different systems too, because I've been in a 4-down system, I've been in a 3-down system, but I wouldn't say there was one in particular that was the guiding factor in my philosophy.
So, talk a little bit about your philosophy. If you had to sum up your approach to defense, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I try to keep it as simple as possible for our guys. I like to give a lot of different looks defensively, but for our guys, it seems to be pretty simple. I think we can see that through the spring. We've been able to pick up the defense really quickly. I would definitely say I'm an attacking style. I want my guys to feel comfortable, but I want to bring pressure from different spots, and I also just want those guys to be confident in what they're doing. I'm not a big guy that hey, you have to take this step, you have to do this exactly. I want to give those guys freedom because I've found in my experience that if we're wrong but we're playing fast and physical, things will tend to sort out for themselves.
And traditionally, the Greyhounds have been a 4-down lineman type of defense. I understand there might be a little bit of a change in the works.
Yeah, we're gonna base some at a mainly 3-down, but we will get into 4-down. We'll have different packages. So if you came out to spring ball, some days it may look like we're still 4-down. Other days it may look like we're 3-down. We give a lot of different variations of the things we do to keep offenses off balance.
In terms of in terms of coaching in general, there are two ways of looking at it. Number one, get players and work them into a system that you trust. The other one is take a look at your personnel and say, okay, based on the guys we've got, this is the defense we need to run. So if you haven't been here all that long, but is it more of a react to the players you have or try and teach kids your system?
We've tried to teach them our system. It's all new terminology, for those guys, but they've done a great job of picking it up. I think, with what we're doing, there's some different things we may call coverage-wise or general philosophy. With the players we have, we're not going to necessarily make our players fit into a round hole if they're square pegs, but we're also not going to change my whole philosophy as a defense. I think it's finding that happy medium of putting them in the best situations to be successful within our schematics.
And from what I understand, just a little biographical research that I did when I found out that you were going to be my guest, the football that you were coaching previously is a football where there's a weight limit put on the players?
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, I've coached Division II for a long time, and then we were in Southwest Missouri. My wife's family still lives in St. Louis, so there was an opportunity to start a sprint football program is what it's called in St. Louis. So it was an opportunity to start a football program, which not a lot of guys get a chance to do, and do that in my hometown and kind of the football community that brought me up. But yes, indeed, the game is exactly the same except every player has to weigh 190 pounds or less. Interesting.
So obviously you've been used to coaching guys that can move around the field.
Yeah, absolutely. We had, it's interesting to get used to that kind of football. I can't say that because you got a offensive lineman that may weigh as much as your corner. So that was definitely an interesting take on football. It was fun while it lasted. I enjoyed it. But last year, after that school announced, I got to get back to traditional football. And, now I don't necessarily see myself going back to the sprint style.
Talk about the process that got you the job here at Eastern. To a certain extent, Kelly Lee had to sell you on Eastern football. To a certain extent, you had to sell yourself to Kelly and say, this is why I'd be a good fit. So talk about that negotiation.
Yeah, he called me. Again, we kind of had a little bit of a relationship. He called me and told me what he wanted to kind of do on defense, and it matched my philosophy for the most part. So I think that was a natural fit. And then I have some familiar with Eastern as well. We played against us when I was at Southwest Baptist University. We did a home and home back in the early 2010s. So
I broadcast those games.
Yeah, so I played against them at home in Bolivar, and then had a chance to come out here. So I've always had a respect for Eastern football because it's always been a great program and competitive and tough-nosed, and that's the kind of style that I like to teach too.
And that's really interesting because I remember you guys beat us decisively at your place, and then we were lucky enough to beat you at our place.
Yeah, you beat us on a last-second field goal back here, yep.
Exactly. Wow. Well, that's now I'm starting to feel old. I broadcast here again. Now you're all grown up.
Well, I wasn't playing. I was coaching, so it's not that long ago.
Well, so in terms of getting the ball club that you're coaching right now during the spring, there are always a couple of kids. If you can get that kid or those kids on board, the rest of the kids will follow. So who are the kids that are really the leaders that you've been working with?
You know, we've had a great group. I think each position group has had some really good leaders that have stepped up. Samu on the defensive line has done a great job of stepping up and buying in and giving great effort on the field. In the linebacker group, the Cordieri brothers are great leaders and do everything right on and off the field. And then we've had some guys step up in the secondary as well. We have a transfer, Cyrus Moore, that's been really vocal and communicative on and off the field. And then Raheem Morris has really stepped up and done a great job of communicating and taking ownership of that group as well.
One reason why we wanted to have you on tonight is the fact that tomorrow is the spring game for Greyhound football. And what can fans expect if they go out to Steve Loy Family Foundation Stadium?
Yeah, we hope to see a lot of people out there. They're going to see a very competitive practice or scrimmage. We've had a great back and forth this spring. I've been a part of programs where it's been kind of one-sided in the spring. There's been some days the defenses looked really good this spring. There's been some days and plays that the offenses looked really good. So I think you'll see a competitive group that I've been really impressed with, both offensively and defense, just for their love of the game. Some places you got to go and coach effort on and off the field, and these guys just seem to love to play the game of football and are flying around and giving great effort and enjoying it and trying to get better with everything they do.
Well, Austin, we've got about 45 seconds left. So if you can sum it up in 45 seconds, if people come out to watch you next fall, what's the one thing you hope people take away about Greyhound football?
That we're fast and physical.
That's pretty good. Well, that's good. Well, Austin, congratulations on getting the position. I hope things go well tomorrow and can't wait to see you guys in action next fall.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment. So we'll clear the set and get set for our second interview right now. Welcome back to SportsLook, and a pleasure to bring back to the set of SportsLook the head coach of Greyhound Track and Field, Josh Harden. Coach, welcome back to SportsLook.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Well, Coach, obviously spring is a busy time at Eastern New Mexico University. We have a number of sports going, track and field in full effect, and we've had one home meet and getting ready for another pretty big home meet.
Yeah, so we'll host the Lone Star Conference Championship May 1st through the 3rd. Which we're pretty excited. It'll be a 3-day event, popping off with our decathlon, heptathlon student athletes here at home. So it should be super exciting. We'll have 11 teams on the men's side and 12 teams on the women's side. So it should be pretty good meet and a lot of fireworks.
I know that we've already sent out the call and have asked people in the community if they could volunteer some time, and I imagine that probably if somebody would volunteer, you're not going to turn them down.
Yeah, and we've had a few individuals already reach out, and we have a form, and it's been kind of sent out, and we're still open to anybody who's wanting to come out and help, and I think when you have that position of being a volunteer, it gives you front row seats to some action. And especially if you're not a track person or never sat at a track meet, it's a really good thing to enjoy up close.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm a little bit biased because I ran track and I coached track, so I've loved the sport for a long time. But there's at least one event that everybody's going to be able to find that they have an interest in.
Yeah, it always is. I mean, because track is just such a diverse sport, and we have so many different events that people will usually they find one that they like, and they sometimes they like glue, they stick to it. So, but yeah, it's multiple events, over 22 events that kind of get held on the track. So there's always something out there for somebody.
Of course, last year, the Greyhound women had an exceptionally good showing, finishing third in the conference, the best showing ever. So how have the women been performing generally this year?
So, I mean, this year we kind of got a slow start. A few injuries kind of slowed us down a little bit. But we're looking to do the same. Our returners have the same goal, and we're doing well, and we're hitting our stride late in the year, which is something that we want. So we're hoping that we can come in again and shock some folks, and we're hoping that we're able to do it at home too.
Let's talk a little bit, and for people that don't really know track and field, there are what are called the field events, and then there are the actual track events, but they're broken into sprints and distances, and then you've got relays. So if you had to say there's one thing on the agenda that you think the Greyhounds will score well in, what are we especially going to be strong in?
Man, right now, if you asked me that a year ago, I could give you a pretty solid answer. This past indoor season, we had opportunities to have, 6 girls in the finals over 2 events within the long jump and triple jump. And hoping that we can kind of pull that together in the outdoor season. Our throws group, Kennedy Ulmer, is really blazing a trail right now of her own, especially with the absence of Tamia Smith, who was a juggernaut for us for a while. But she's stepped up and she's done a lot of solid things. I think we're able to surprise anybody anywhere. Especially with our women's sprints. We have a returning conference champion in the 100. And then our 4x100 meter relay is ranked second right now in the conference. So, we have an opportunity to kind of shock some folks, across the board in multiple events. So, we're hoping to kind of do that. We kind of seem and feel a little bit more balanced this year. So I'm hoping that, I don't have to pick just one event for us to show out in. I hope that, we can do some solid things all around.
It's interesting you were talking about relays, and relays for a lot of people says, well, you pass a baton, but there's a lot more to it. I mean, if you're off by just a couple of inches, you drop the baton, you pass outside of the exchange zone, and then you get disqualified.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you do have to rehearse, and chemistry plays a part. Lucky for us, we've have a team where we've only really changed out within this last year and a half. We've only changed out one person in that relay. So it's been pretty solid. Our first and second leg have great camaraderie. They've done it now for 2 years. This is our second year, together as a relay. So, we're hoping that, we can move the baton smoothly and, we can bring home some solid points for us.
It obviously can change in the next couple of weeks, but who traditionally or typically anchors your 4x100?
So right now it's our 100-meter champ, Griselle Scarlett. So she's our anchor, and, we don't really see that changing. And we have good rapport. We have Helena, who's on that third league for us this weekend, due to some injuries, but she does a solid job on that leg. So we have that conference champ on the end of it. So
who on paper would be the team in the women's side of the Lone Star Conference that would be the favorite on paper?
On paper, it'd be WT. They boast a really good team all around too, from distance to the throws. So they're king on the hill right now. So we're hoping to be able to get in there and mix it up. Our one thing is that we have the conference champ right now. So we're hoping to go in and defend it like we did indoor. Excuse me.
Absolutely. Okay, let's switch it over and let's talk about the guys. So how's the guys' season been going?
I mean, we're hitting our stride late right now. We ran a provisional just this past weekend in our men's actual 4x1. So We ran 40.49, which kind of rounded up, but which was a solid run for us. Puts us, I think, 25th in the country, with a solid time. And then of course, we have Timothy Frederick coming back, so he's a guy that we expect to do a lot for us. He's leading the conference in the 400 right now, so we have a lot of good things, that we're hoping to put together on this men's side, and some guys that we think are going to sneak into the finals and score some points for us.
Well, talking about the 400, you had a young man who, at the beginning of the season, at Chamoy Jackson, if I remember correctly, it was pretty good.
Yeah. So we're hoping that he can come in and really do some things. Hopefully, we can shake it up in the 400. There's been some pretty strong performances in our conference. So we're hoping that we can have the top two guys in there. But of course, you never know what happens on a day. But we're hoping to have two guys in that final of that 400-meter dash.
So are they going to be a part of your 4x400?
Yeah. Those guys were a part of that 4x4 quartet who broke the school record, running at 3:13. So we're hoping to be able to lower that a little bit and be able to kind of compete within that top of the conference. We got some good schools and good names to throw in that hat. So we're hoping we can get in there with those two guys and some young and new faces and mix it up with them.
I was just going to ask, who are the other two guys that you presume are going to be part of that 4x400?
So right now, we have a group of three that we're rotating with. Elijah Davis, who's a transfer out of California. We also have Kyler Joe, who's a New Mexico native, but he's also transferring from John Brown out of Arkansas. And then we have Trey Buchanan, who's a senior for us, who also was on our relay when we ran 3:13. So, with those three guys being our options, we're hoping that we can put together the best relay that can go in there and compete.
We talked a little bit about the females in terms of the field events. Talk about guys in field events that might score points for you.
Yeah, so we have Heman Joseph, who's a multi-force, 1 point off the school record for the decathlon, but he's also been in a position to hit that provisional mark for Division II in the long jump. So he at any moment he can put one together and put out a big jump. He was a conference scorer for us in the long jump last year. So he's somebody that we're looking forward to score big points. We have a freshman in the high jump who's doing really well for us, William McLilly. He's a pretty solid kid and he's growing. And then Braden Munoz, who's a New Mexico native as well. He also hurdles for us. True freshman, snuck into the final in the indoor 60 and was able to do something for us. And we're hoping that he can do something in the 110 hurdles as well as the triple jump.
Who's made the most progress? Who, at the beginning of the track season, was just, they're on, let's go ahead, but have really contributed as of late?
I think somebody who's always a contributor for us and shows up at big times. He's not a newcomer, but Noé Yabibin Barciaga, he's one of our shot putter, hammer thrower. He's somebody that always steps up, when Lone Star Conference comes around. So he's somebody that we're hoping that can continue to do that. Alex Williams, who's taken second last year, and I think he took second his first year here. He's somebody that can always come out and put on a show, when it's time to it. And I think it's his time this year that we, may be able to be the conference champ. So those are some guys that quiet as kept there in our field events. There are some people that can come and pop up and do something really big for us.
And of course, for anybody who knows about the background of the people that are on the track and field squad, a lot of people from the Caribbean. What's the connection?
So I mean, it's just kind of different connections in different places. Some I've recruited, some I know coaches that sent to me, and some that have I've gotten because of our athletes have known them. So but it's not just the Caribbean. We recruit all over. We got some Texas kids that are contributing. We got some California kids that are contributing to this for us right now. One of our young female jumpers, Selena Thomas, who's a Florida native, who's doing really well. She's sitting second in school history. I think she may have taken the outdoor triple jump school record and jumped 40 feet this past weekend. She's somebody who's developing and growing. So and then Thomas is our 800-meter guy. If you haven't heard about him, he's 152, for us, so, as well, being from the Netherlands. And our young hurdle group is, a little mixture of Texas, Serbian, and as well as New Mexico. So, we have contributors coming from all over, and we're a pretty diverse team that we're kind of proud of. So, it's not just the Caribbean, but, we're all over.
Well, Coach, congratulations on the success you've had so far, and let's hope that we've got some really good showings at the conference championships.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, well, that will wrap up the interview segment, so we'll close this out, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. Last Sunday was the last day of the regular season in the NBA, and something kind of strange happened. A guy by the name of Michael Bridges had the longest consecutive game streak going in the NBA. He had played in 555 straight games. But the team didn't want to play him because they're getting ready for the playoffs. They didn't want him to get injured, and so they wanted to sit him. But Michael Bridges didn't want to lose his consecutive game streak, so they reached a compromise. He started the game, the other team got the ball. He intentionally fouled a player 6 seconds into the contest and then got subbed out. So the record is still on track, but it's kind of a sketchy record now that I've told you that particular story. Well, that will wrap up in overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of SportsLook. I'd like to thank my guests, Austin Bortle and Josh Harden. Had a great floor crew once again. Kyle was my director. So for all of those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.